And if you don't want to receive them, we will not send it, right? We expect feedback from you from whatever we do. If you don't get a feedback, we presume that it is useless to send. Okay, give me feedback on that. We'll follow that. Regarding bladder cancer, it is an important malignancy in the genitourinary tract. You have to suspect bladder carcinoma if there is hematuria, even once in the middle age group, even once, even if it is intermittent, lasts only for 1 day and then subsides. You'll have to investigate the cause of hematuria. Because our people have a tendency, even if they have hematuria, they say it is because vedi chesindi. That's why we are getting blood in the urine. It's not like that. Blood in urine is a very serious symptom of underlying malignancy or some disease. So all these people should have an investigation for carcinoma of the bladder. Then what you have to remember about carcinoma bladder is, most of these things are superficial tumors and they have a long history of treatment also. These things are notorious for their recurrence, multiplicity in origin. So there can be multiple tumors and multiple recurrences. When you follow them, there will be multiple recurrences. So we'll have to tackle them and follow the patient regularly to give complete care of the patient. Diagnosis is established by cystoscopic examination and confirmation by biopsy, and staging by various modalities of investigations we are going to decide. Based on this, the treatment is devised. And now, one important thing I want to emphasize is the treatment is not over once you do the operation or give some treatment. You have to follow the patient regularly. Each patient also should come to you regularly, not come when there is hematuria. So follow-up and follow-up treatment is required. With this, the prognosis in transitional carcinoma of the bladder is good. Coming to the subject, bladder cancer is the second most common cause of the urinary tract. Here I have a question. What do you think is the first in this cancer, genitourinary cancer? What is the first cancer of the genitourinary? If the bladder cancer is only second most common. I expect an answer from you before the class is over. It accounts for 7% of new cases in men and 2% new cases in women in hematuria. There's a male preponderance of carcinoma of bladder. If a man who is a smoker comes with hematuria, you have to think in terms of malignancy, whereas in females, you think of other causes of hematuria. The average age at diagnosis is around 65 years. No, not very right. It can occur in the middle age from 40 years onwards. Bladder carcinoma can occur. And 75% of the bladder cancers are localized to bladder. As I said, these bladder cancers are very much localized. They don't tend to metastasize to different areas, only locally in lymph nodes. And most are diagnosed early because of if the attack of hematuria is, I don't know, something happened. I want to share the screen again. Girish. Girish. I don't know. Right, now I come back again. Right. Something wrong, I'll call for help. 1 minute. Girish. 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 Sudden ga poi edo playback ide chesi veltade. Wait. ఏమైంది? Okay, fine. So I said most are localized and have a better prognosis. 25% spread to regional lymph nodes or distant sites rarely. This is the advantage of carcinoma bladder. Why should carcinoma bladder develop, and in whom it develops in whom? The commonest etiological factor is supposed to be cigarette smoking, which accounts for 65% of cases in men and only 20 to 30% in women. Why? Because women also smoke nowadays. Previously, only lower class people in Visakhapatnam district used to smoke with burnt end inside the mouth. Now it has become a social culture for women to smoke in public also. So this cigarette smoking is one of the important etiological factors. Smokers have approximately 2 to 3-fold of increase in occurrence of the bladder cancer. Why? This is because certain chemical agents like alpha and beta naphthylamine are secreted into the urine of the smokers, and they cause these changes that lead to carcinoma of the bladder. And normally, bladder epithelium is only transitional cell epithelium. So most of these things are transitional carcinomas. But sometimes squamous cell carcinoma occurs in the bladder. This is because of metaplastic changes induced by long-standing caliculi like Staghorn calicus or bilharziasis. So this chronic irritation causes squamous metaplasia and malignancy. Occupational exposure, also once again, all these occupations in chemical, dye, rubber, petroleum, leather, and printing industries. These have also the specific carcinogens like benzidine, beta-naphthylamine, which are used in the dye industry and textile industry. These are also excreted in the urine, change the epithelium to malignant changes. And one area is endoxan-induced cystitis. Cyclophosphamide is called endoxan. It is used for certain malignancies and it causes cystitis. Some cases of these cystitis have been noticed to develop malignancy at a later time. Ingestion of artificial sweeteners also been incriminated but not correctly proved. Physical trauma to urothelium, as I said, induced by bilharziasis, chronic infection, instrumentation, and caliculi increase risk of malignancy. Suppose there is a suprapubic tube which is kept for retention and is there for a long time, that can induce the epithelial changes and result in malignancy. As I said, carcinoma bladder is a multifactorial etiology is there in carcinoma bladder. It may involve the activation of oncogenes and inactivation or loss of tumor suppressor genes genetically. So the consistent genetic deformity is loss of genetic material on chromosome 9 appears to be a consistent finding. So the disease can also have a genetic basis. Normal pathology, what is pathology occurring in carcinoma bladder? As I said, most of these things are transitional epithelial malignancies. Bladder consists of epithelium and muscle as well as other tissues like blood vessels, neurogenic elements and all. But the commonest malignancy is one of epithelial malignancy only. Its transitional cell carcinomas occur in 95% of the cases. These are all papillary type of cancers, and some infiltrative cancers are ulcerative and sessile. Adenocarcinomas are squamous cell carcinomas in 5%. Where does this adenocarcinoma come from? There is a urachus related to the bladder, in relation to bladder, and there are certain glands and adenocarcinomas develop from them. And as I said, squamous cell carcinomas occur from squamous metaplasia due to chronic irritation or stones. Other malignancies which can also occur are listed out. They are not very common. Spread from contiguous organs like carcinoma cervix and carcinoma sigmoid colon, we have seen number of carcinoma cervix patients getting on the involvement of the bladder. This is possible. Then benign papillary tumors. But any papilloma seen in the bladder should be treated as potentially malignant by TURP. Because usually benign tumors can occur but very rare. This is a frond-like papillary growth with a central vascular core and managed as carcinoma bladder is managed by TURP. Inverted papilloma is a benign lesion, whereas the proliferative cells penetrate the normal mucosa. Hence, the lesion is covered with smooth urothelium. So, inverted papilloma is another benign tumor. It's not very common. So papillary tumor with daughter implantation, this has been given in your textbook as Kick's cancer. This only shows there is multifocal development of malignant bladder tumors. Of these, urothelial tumors, as I said, are 90% of the cases. Squamous cell carcinomas occur for 5% only. Common in bilharzia and endemic areas. Adenocarcinoma occurs for 1 to 2%, arises from urachal remnant. So what are the clinical features of urothelial carcinoma, bladder cancer? Painless, gross, and total hematuria in 85 to 95% of the patients. This is only single significant clinical feature of bladder cancer. Because initially, it is only limited to the mucosa. It causes gross or microscopic hematuria, intermittent or continuous. Even if the hematuria stops after 1 day, you have to think of malignancy. Constant pain in the pelvis may occur only if there is extravesical spread. If there is a growth, it can have irritable symptoms like frequency, urgency, dysuria. These are all the irritative symptoms which are possible with a growth in the bladder. Symptoms of advanced disease include pain from bone. Metastasis or flank pain occur in the retroperitoneal lymph nodes. Also may cause ureteric obstruction. These lymph nodes can cause ureteric obstruction. The growth as such also can cause ureteric obstruction if it is nearer to a ureteric orifice. So severe loin pain can occur due to hydronephrosis. And referred pain to suprapubic region, groin, perineum, and anus into the thighs can occur when there is extravesical spread of the disease. So you must remember in the clinical findings, only hematuria is an important significant finding. Unless the patient neglects, bladder tumors are not palpable clinically. You don't find a bladder mass palpable on clinical examination. On an investigations, you come. On an advanced malignancy, you can find some mass due to lymph nodes and other things, but bladder growth is not palpable. Superficial bladder cancer, as I said, most of the transactional carcinomas are papillary and superficial. These grow in exophytic fashion into the bladder lumen. These include superficial bladder cancer definition by definiting groups, carcinoma in C2 and PT1. We'll come to the classification later. The common sites are trigone and lateral walls of the bladder, which are easier to manage by transurethral resection. They can also occur anterior wall of the bladder and over the dome and multiple areas. Certain areas are difficult to operate, like anterior wall tumors. High-grade tumors are high risk for recurrence. As I said, these are notorious for recurrence. You do one tumor excision, TRP, then it can recur in some other area. So, notorious for recurrence. Muscle invasive transactional carcinoma is usually rare to present with. It is nearly always a solid tumor, often large and broad-based, unlike superficial bladder papillary carcinoma. Irregular ulcerated appearance within the bladder. Metastasis occurs to liver, lungs, bones, and may cause death in 30 to 50% of the patients. So muscle invasive bladder cancer is a serious condition compared to superficial bladder tumor, which can recur but still can be managed by conservative methods, conserving bladder as such. In squamous cell carcinoma, which develops in bilharziasis, there is a calcification, a sand-like thing happens on the surface of the tumor, and patient can present saying that I am passing multiple calculi in the urine. So that's another manifestation. So here you see a radical cystectomy specimen. Radical cystectomy is an operation done for muscle invasive bladder tumor, wherein you remove the entire bladder and the prostate and anastomose the bladder to the create an artificial bladder using intestines, or you implant the uterus into a small bowel or something like that and bring it out as a diversion. Urinary diversion procedures are done for after removing the bladder. So carcinoma in situ is a peculiar thing which in which there are histological appearances of irregularly arranged cells with large nuclei and high mitotic index replacing the normally well-ordered urothelium. So there are signs of incipient malignancy, but not overtly present as papillary tumor. This is carcinoma in situ. Primary carcinoma in situ occurs alone in multiple areas, very difficult to diagnose on our hysteroscopic examination, which uses white light, but certain mechanisms like a blue light histography using some chemical installation makes this carcinoma in situ changes more visible in multiple areas. Then concomitant carcinoma in situ occurs with new tumor. You should not be satisfied resecting only tumor. You have to look for carcinoma in situ changes elsewhere and make multiple biopsies. This is an important in transrectal resection of the prostate. Secondary carcinoma in situ is in a patient who has previously had a tumor. So it can be synchronous submetastasis. When there is a tumor, you are resecting it, you are supposed to look at the rest of the bladder and also the prostate urethra for any growth. A growth in the prostate urethra changes radically the management. So all these tumors should be resected, and also carcinoma in situ suspicious areas must be biopsied to take a total picture of the disease. So what are the symptoms of carcinoma in situ? This can present with dysuria, suprapubic pain, and frequency. This is because of the irritative symptoms when there is a mucosal lesion. The diagnosis is by cystoscopy and biopsy, of course. And risk of developing a malignant muscle invasive cancer is there if it is not treated. And if untreated, 50% die of the bladder cancer in carcinoma in situ itself. The other histological variety of cancer is squamous cell carcinoma, as I said. It tends to be a solid tumor, not a papillary tumor like squamous cell carcinoma. Nearly always associated with muscle invasion. To start with, it grows and invades the muscle and surrounding tissues. More prevalent in bilharzia endemic areas. And chronic irritation by stone disease leads to squamous metaplasia and squamous cell carcinoma, as I said before. Adenocarcinoma occurs in only 1 to 2% of the cases. Arises in the fundus of the bladder at the site of the urethral attachment, and occasionally from areas of glandular metaplasia occurring in the rest of the bladder tissues. Here, you can think of a secondary cancer from adjacent organs going on to the bladder, because adenocarcinomas are rare in primary bladder disease. So if you have these symptoms like hematuria, pain, irritative symptoms, and sometimes chronic obstruction. These symptoms also can be seen in benign prostate hypertrophy, prostate enlargement, wherein people will have frequency, urgency, dysuria, sometimes bleeding also, hematuria also. But you should not presume it is due to BPH only. You have to rule out carcinoma of the bladder. This is called a decoy prostate. Prostate here is only a decoy for the inside bladder tumor. So you'll have to think of this. Hematuria is not very common in benign hypertrophy of the prostate. So you'll have to think about carcinoma bladder in a patient with symptoms of benign prostate hypertrophy, and then find it out and rule out bladder carcinoma. Sometimes both occur, BPH and transitional carcinoma occur. You have to resect both. So how do you diagnose? Cytology for malignant cells. That is important thing. Cytology for malignant cells is done for urine marker as a tumor marker. And then if the malignant cells are positive, just towards the diagnosis of carcinoma. Then urine culture, because the symptoms are like urinary infection, you have to do urine culture and treat it before you do any surgical procedure. Now the tumor markers are come into the picture. Newer tests, these are newer tests, tumor markers, urine, based on the presence of antigens like nuclear matrix proteins, NMP22 is one test which is done nowadays. Bladder tumor antigen is another test, another tumor marker, which is used to diagnose of carcinoma bladder. This is used to diagnose a new tumor or a recurrent tumor. But if these things are done for more for the recurrences of the tumor, because One thing I would told you in the case of carcinoma of the kidney is transitional carcinoma occurring in one area of transitional area. You have to rule out other tumors in the other transitional epithelium containing tissues like ureter and renal pelvis also. You diagnose a renal pelvic tumor, you come down the ureter and the bladder also. As I said, the operation for transitional carcinoma of the renal pelvis is remove the kidney, ureter, and the cuff of the bladder. So, multicentric origin of the tumor dictates this. So, this is used more for after you resect the tumor, still there are malignant cells, then it means either a tumor recurrence or there's an upper tract tumor. Then what will you do? Ultrasound scanning is the first line of investigation. You do an ultrasound, it's almost an extension of clinical examination. You do an ultrasound, you find a mass in the bladder. The mass, sometimes the ultrasonologist gives, it can be a clot or a growth. A clot, if there is hematuria, history of hematuria, they say it can be a clot or a growth. So you'll have to rule out by other investigations. Then the other investigation is intravenous urogram, which was done routinely. In all patients with painless hematuria, intravenous urogram is done. Most common neurological sign is a filling defect in the bladder. Irregularity of the bladder wall happens when there is invasive tumor. And hydronephrosis, growing up in the intramural ureteric orifice area, causes hydronephrosis on that side. And then you do various cross-section imagings like contrast-enhanced CT or MRI for staging when there is a muscle invasion, and also to know about the lymph node metastasis. These investigations are done. This is how we find in ultrasound a bladder growth. Bladder growth occurs in this is a papillary growth occurring in the wall. And you can also, in ultrasound, well done ultrasound, you can also see if there is muscle invasion, something like that. But you have to depend on other investigations. See, here is an intravenous urogram where there is a filling defect in the bladder. Bladder usually fills up very smoothly, and a regular one, entire thing is filled up smoothly. But whereas here there is an irregularity and filling defect, and you see the hydronephrosis on this side. That means this bladder cancer is infiltrating into the muscle and ureter. So this is a really advanced tumor. Then the cross-sectional MRI showing a cystogram effect. This is rest of the bladder. If it is filled up nicely like this, there is a contour, normal contour of the bladder. Whereas here we find a filling defect, growth. And the CT scan also, you see, this is the growth seen in the CT scan. CT scan gives an idea as to the vessel, thickening or infiltration of the vasculature, muscle, something like that. Muscle and surrounding areas. So what is the important investigation which can directly see the bladder tumor and establish the diagnosis? Cystourethropy is a mainstay of diagnosis in carcinoma of the bladder. It always should be performed in patients with hematuria after an ultrasound. It can be done with a rigid instrument under local or general anesthesia, or a flexible cystoscopic equipment available under local anesthesia. You do a cystoscopic examination starting from urethra down into the prostate urethra and then into the bladder. See the ureteric orifices, see the whole of the bladder, two lateral walls, trigone, posterior wall and anterior wall, and coming down you see the prostate urethra also. So the systemic fashion, whole of the bladder is examined. So this is how an endoscopic photograph of the bladder tumor, this is how a papillary tumor is seen on cystoscopic examination. Then after cystoscopy, you'll empty the bladder and do a bimanual examination, putting your finger into the rectum and trying to palpate the bladder walls in between. It is done preferably under general anesthesia because patient will be totally relaxed. And before and after endoscopic inspection also, not only after surgical treatment, endoscopy evaluation also. Differentiation between T2 and T3, which we come to later, that means infiltration of the superficial muscle and the deep muscle, detrusor. Mass is palpable bimanually at the end of the procedure. If it is not palpable, that means it is a superficial tumor. If it is palpable after bimanual examination, then it is a muscle infiltrating lesion. So once you diagnose, how do you stage the disease? Confirmation of the disease is by doing a biopsy. Cystoscopy and resection of the tumor with separate resection of the tumor base is essential for accurate analysis of the invasion into retrosar muscle. I'll be showing you next a picture wherein all these things are demonstrated. So just biopsy, which is enough in a carcinoma bladder. You have to get the muscle area also for accurate staging. So when your bladder tumor is not, diagnosis cystoscopy is usually, if it is supported by other things, followed by bladder tumor resection and biopsy, not inspection once and biopsy later. Because you have to arrange some blood and all, you may take some time, but immediately TRBT is the treatment for treatment as well as for staging. So at the end of the resection of the tumor, you take a separate bit in the muscle, deep biopsy, but it gives you whether the muscle is invaded or not. And bimanual exam is performed after the resection of the tumor. How do you stage the bladder cancer? As I said, all transitional areas must be scanned. That's why complete urinary tract imaging is required using contrast. Intravenous urography, where other techniques are not available. Cystography and MRI are preferable. CT urography and MRI are preferable for staging. CT cystography and MR cystography also. Cross-sectional imaging by CT or MR is essential in high risk and muscle invasive disease to stage the tumor further, including lymph node status for metastasis. The first line wherein bladder cancer metastasis is lymph nodes. So you'll have to know about the lymph node status and any involvement of the adjacent organs before you completely stage the disease and plan your treatment. So this is how the bladder tumors are. This is TIS, in situ malignancy. TA means it's confined to the epithelium. T1, there is lamina propria underneath. Lamina propria are invaded in T2, T1 tumors. T2, the superficial muscle is invaded. And this is 2A. T2A, superficial muscle is invaded. And B, 2B is deep muscle is invaded. And T3, the perivesical fat. The perivesical fat is involved in T3. And T4, adjacent organs are involved. Once again, these are subclassified into, as I said, superficial muscle, deep muscle, 2A, 2B. 3A is microscopic involvement and B is macroscopic involvement. T4A is invasion of the prostate, uterus and vagina. T4B is invasion of pelvic wall and abdominal wall. So that shows this is the classification of bladder cancer depending on the extent of involvement of muscle, superficial, lamina propria, superficial muscle and deep muscle. So you see here, TIS is carcinoma in situ. TA is non-invasion of lamina propria, that is confined to the epithelium. Lamina propria is not involved. T1, lamina propria is invaded. T2, invasion of retrosar muscle, superficial. AB, deep muscle. T3 is invasion of the perivesical tissues. 4A, invasion of prostate, uterus and vagina. 4B, invasion of pelvic wall and abdominal wall. That means. But most of the non-muscle invasive tumors, 70% of all new cases are non-muscle invasive tumors only and superficial. They have excellent prognosis. Muscle invasive tumors are 25% of new cases. Local invasion and different metastasis, these have a worse prognosis. And flat non-invasive carcinomas occur in 5% of new cases. Then they carry poor prognosis because of delayed diagnosis and management. So you have suspected a bladder cancer, done an ultrasound and other followed by cystoscopy examination of the bladder biopsy, and then you have diagnosed transient papilloma, did other investigations to know about the extent of the disease, then you have to treat. So what is the treatment? Superficial tumors. Open surgical excision should not be done at all, totally avoided. Because if you do an open operation, the tumors can splage can occur into the perivascular tissues. And if you put a suprapubic tube, growth can occur there at the site of the suprapubic tube. So open surgical excision should be avoided. Previously, we used to do partial cystectomies for small bladder tumors diagnosed scopically. Now, everything is done endoscopically only, and these are not done. Invasive tumors are treated by radiotherapy, external beam radiotherapy. Surgery is by partial cystectomy, as I said, for small adenocarcinomas and not routinely done at all. Radical cystectomy and pelvic lymphadenectomy, that is the treatment of carcinoma bladder, muscle invasive growths, and urinary diversion. When you remove the bladder, you have to do a urinary diversion procedure. So, superficial tumors are treated by endoscopic surgery. Resection of the tumor with resectoscope. Base of the tumor and small pinch biopsies sent for histopathological examination to look for muscle invasion. And also, as I said, other areas in which there are carcinoma in situ change suspicion. What are the complications of doing this endoscopic surgery? One is a bladder perforation. Instrument uses electric current. So, there, if you stimulate the nerve, but spasm is there or sometimes perforation. So, you have to be very careful doing the TURBT. And bimanual examination after the procedure gives rise, again, helps in knowing whether it is muscle invasive or not when you are planning for a superficial tumor. Then follow-up is done by immediately by instillation of mitomycin, which reduces the risk of recurrence. Follow-up regular cystoscopies and for superficial tumors when indicated, regular course of chemotherapy, intravesical instillation with mitomycin, epirubicin, something like that. And if there is a recurrence, there is re-resection and intravesical BCG. The other treatment we'll discuss later. So these people should be followed for recurrence, and any superficial recurrence is again resected. This happens a number of times in a superficial tumor. Patient should not get bored. You have to inform him before that this is notoriously a recurrent tumor. You need recurrent interventions when they occur. I'll show you a small clip how I'll show you at the end. This is I'm plan to show you the transurethral resection of the bladder tumor, right? Open all our video. Right. I'm gonna share. I'm gonna share. Did share online? So this is a transurethral resection of the bladder tumor done endoscopically. You see that this tumor is seen in the lateral or the pelvis, maybe ureteric. This is the, they'll show you the ureteric orifice also. This is the ureteric orifice there, and tumor relation is far away from the ureteric orifice. There is another tumor, and this is how a bladder resection tumor, the resection is done by electric current through the loops the tumor is resected gradually, taking care not to perforate the bladder wall. So you see how resection is being done? Gently, you resect the tumor. Entire tumor is resected from the vesical wall, and fulguration of the bladder base after taking a biopsy from the bladder base separately. That's how transurethral resection of the bladder tumor is done. See how it is being resected? Smoothly with gentle maneuver, entire tumor is resected. See, there's another tumor there. You should not injure the bladder wall, cause perforation. Of course, one risk of this thing is in TRBT is bleeding. Hemorrhage is an important complication. You coagulate the vessels directly, seeing that is the advantage of this endoscopic bladder tumor resection. You see, if there is a bleeding, you can directly coagulate the vessel under vision through the current passing through the loop. You have two types of current, coagulation current and resection, cutting and coagulation. So you change both, coagulate the vessel or cut the tumor, depending on this thing. So this is how smoothly the bladder tumor is resected. See, all these things are sent for biopsy. They are collected, sucked from the bladder wall and sent for separately labeled. The bladder base is separately labeled for this thing. Type in next slide, right? Next slide. Right? So you have seen how a bladder tumor is resected. Now, after resection of the tumor, what will you do? Usually, it is followed by an intravesical chemotherapy for all superficial tumors, so that it can prevent recurrence to some level, and also the malignant cells are destroyed, which are already there in the bladder are destroyed. Single dose of mitomycin C, 40 milligrams and 60 ml of distilled water is given immediately after surgery, after the bleeding stops and there is no bladder perforation. So these two things are important. There should not be any bleeding. There should not be any bladder perforation. Then you give this and keep there for 1 hour. Then release. Patient is on catheter. So you instill into the bladder, clamp the bladder outflow, then wait for 1 hour, then release it. That's how it is done. And it decreases the chance of recurrence in superficial tumors. Then how to follow? That's not another treatment again. You have to give 6 weeks course of intravesical chemotherapy with mitomycin and other drugs for people whom you suspect could have recurrence. Single dose is given for a very superficial papilloma. When you are happy there is no muscle invasion, single installation will be enough. But others, you have to give a 6 weeks course of this thing. Or you can use a BCG. Intravesical BCG also is given as a treatment for intravesical therapy. Follow-up cystoscopies are essential for patients at high risk of the recurrence. They should be performed at 3 monthly intervals for first year and as when necessary. So external radiotherapy for invasive tumors and squamous cell carcinoma, which is very sensitive to radiotherapy, is usually given at 6 GI over 4 to 6 weeks period. There's a complete response of 40 to 50% in squamous cell carcinomas, not transmission carcinomas. Then chemotherapy is another modality given for bladder malignancies. It is given under various conditions. Suppose it's a non-metastatic disease, but infiltration. And there is a bulky inoperable tumor. You give chemotherapy to reduce tumor bulk so that it becomes resectable. Muscle invasive cancer that are still resectable, superficial muscle, you have to do, we'll give this chemotherapy so that it is amenable to resection. So all these things are conditions where you give chemotherapy. Chemotherapy before surgery is called neoadjuvant therapy. So this is called neoadjuvant therapy. For bulky inoperable invasive bladder tumors, chemotherapy has been used as a means of cytoreduction in order to make surgery possible. And muscle invasive bladder cancers that are resectable by radical cystectomy. Before radical cystectomy, chemotherapy in combination with radiation has been advocated by some as a bladder preserving approach for muscle invasive tumors. This means radical cystectomy is indicated, but patient refuses radical cystectomy, doesn't want to have any urinary diversion, then you can give this and leave him with a functional bladder. But not advisable for a muscle invasive tumor. Radical cystectomy is the treatment of choice. And for metastatic bladder tumors, certain chemotherapy drugs like in CMV regimen, cisplatin, methotrexate, and Brastin, all these drugs are given for metastatic disease in cycles. You read about these things in your pharmacology. But what is the overall response rates of approximately 50 to 60% complete response is done in superficial tumors. Overall survival of patients with metastatic disease treated with these elements is only 8 to 14 months range. That means all as it is disease advanced and there is morbidity due to drugs also that like that. Ultimately, what are the guidelines for the treatment of transitional cell carcinoma? Carcinoma in situ, TUR and intravesical immunotherapy to prevent growth into a malformed growth. It is a single small focus tumor, TURBT. It is a large multifocal tumor, TURBT with BCG or intravesical chemotherapy. T1, low-grade T1 tumors, TUR, again, BCG or intravesical therapy. High-grade tumors, you have to do a radical cystectomy, invasive tumor, muscle invasive tumors, radical cystectomy. So this is regarding bladder cancer. So summarizing what we have learned today, bladder cancer is an important urogenital malignancy, right? Important urogenital malignancy. As I asked you, what is the first malignancy? Nobody has responded. I think I see here. What is the first common malignancy? Right, excellent. Somebody has said prostate cancer. That's right, very good. Prostate cancer is the first one. Bladder cancer is the second one. Right. Then, so any of these things, hematuria occurring, should be investigated thoroughly by doing an ultrasound examination as the first line of investigation. The urinary, tumor markers and cytology are redundant if there is a mass already seen. If there is a growth seen already, you don't do urine for tumor markers. You have already a tumor for biopsy and other study. Tumor markers are done only when after resection of the tumor, you don't find any tumor, but you want to follow the progress of the disease, you do urinary cytology. And also, positive urinary cytology after resection of bladder tumor may indicate the presence of tumor elsewhere in the ureter or renal pelvis. As I said, in benign hypertrophy prostate, hematuria per se is not common. Prostate here is called a decoy prostate because it will be hiding a bladder tumor inside. So you have to think about, even though patient is an elderly man about 60 years, has symptoms of BPH, frequency dysuria and other malignant hematuria, hesitancy and other irritative symptoms, you have to suspect that there could be a bladder tumor inside. What do? There is a prostate with irritation of urine and a bladder tumor. Resect both. People say resect the tumor first, then the prostate, because a raw prostatic area the tumor cells can get implanted in the raw area, but it has not been proven, and people do both resection of the prostate, which makes easier to resect the tumor. So BPH, you have to keep in mind the carcinoma bladder and investigate. The investigation is done by cystoscopic examination and bimile examination. Cystoscopic examination, you do a bladder biopsy and suspicious areas of rest of the bladder where there are changes of carcinoma in situ. As you say, it's been pointed out, these are multifocal. So you should not be satisfied. You should see growth at one area and be done with it. You have to see the entire bladder, including the anterior wall, by pressing or anteabdominal wall, to see if there is any bladder tumor. Multiplicity, multifocal origin, you have to remember in case of bladder tumor. If you treat one area, the other areas may be there. So you have to keep in mind, investigation also should be done keeping this in mind. Then after cystoscopy, you do a bimanual examination to get an idea as to the extension of the tumor. Extension into deeper muscle is bimanually palpable. As I said, the cancer can be there in the epithelium, go to lamina propria, superficial muscle, or deep muscle, or perivesical extension. So all these things can be diagnosed by bimanual examination. After you do this, you plan for treatment. Superficial tumors are treated by TURBT, transurethral resection of bladder tumor. You see how easily it can be done. Easily they are resected by electric current and all these things are washed out. So ultimately, at the end of this thing, you see and coagulate the bladder base and take a biopsy from bladder base, muscle area to know the muscle invasion, and then fulgurate the area for bleeding. Important complications of TURBT are hemorrhage, bleeding, and bladder perforation. So these two things are contraindicated for intravesical chemotherapy giving immediately after the surgery. This intravesical chemotherapy is also important because it reduces the chance of recurrence, and also in the immediate postoperative period, it can destroy the malignant cells which are already there. So TURBT is followed usually by intravesical chemotherapy once or for 6 weeks continuously, depending on this tumor, how the tumor is going on. So radiotherapy is not advocated for transsexual carcinomas because they don't respond to radiotherapy. But if the patient says, I will not have any surgery, then the only thing is radiotherapy. But response rate of transsexual carcinoma for radiotherapy is very poor. It is useful in the case of squamous cell carcinoma. So superficial tumors, you resect, tell the patient to come for follow-up because they are notoriously recurrent tumors are more. And you have to tell him this needs follow-up for a certain period and he may have to undergo repeated operations for recurrent tumors. That is very important to talk to the patient at the beginning of the treatment itself. People may feel that after surgery, they don't require any follow-up. That requires follow-up and also surgery also if it is required. And radiotherapy is given only for squamous cell carcinomas. Chemotherapy is given for locally advanced malignancy to prevent recurrences. And also, you are planning to do surgery on a bulky tumor. Adjuvant chemotherapy is given to reduce the bulk of the tumor. Radical cystectomy is a treatment for muscle invasive cancer. There is no other treatment for bladder cancer which is infiltrating. So, radical cystectomy with urinary diversion. You have removed the bladder and prostate. How does patient pass urine unless you do make a urinary diversion? You can create a neobladder with bowel and anastomose the urethra so that patient can void through that thing. Or you have to do intermittent catheterization himself. Or you can do a cutaneous urinary diversion by bringing out an intestine to outside and implanting both the ureters into the bowel. So this is done after a radical cystectomy. Radical cystectomy is the treatment of choice for infiltrating malignancies. Then about other malignancies, they are rare, but once again, they have to be treated as such. So this is regarding bladder cancer. If you have any doubts, you can ask me now. I did not get a feedback whether the PDF sent and before the class is useful to you or not, whether you are reading it or not, whether you are getting prepared or not. I want to have feedback about that. So, do you using sending the PDF before the class? Is that? As a superficial bladder tumors have an excellent prognosis. Repeatedly, you are resect the tumor and follow him up. But muscle invasive tumors have a poor prognosis, very poor prognosis of muscle invasive disease. Even after radical cystectomy and other things, you have to be very careful because the involvement of the muscle and other areas, if the lymph nodes are involved, if the rest of the tissues are involved, surrounding tissues, gives a very poor prognosis. And urinary diversion has also its own problems. Urinary diversion has also got its own problems. When you use bowel as a reservoir or as a cutaneous diversion, they have got their own problems. So infiltrated tumors, relatively poor prognosis, even though the treatment is available. Okay, if you don't have any questions, okay, thank you very much, and expect a feedback about the use of sending the PDF earlier. You do that at least later.